Hello everyone and welcome back to this video series on how to make an aircraft in Autodesk Fusion 360. So far we've been focusing on creating the details of the fuselage, the wings, and also the empennage section. What we haven't done is focus on the engines at all. So in today's video, we are going to be doing just that. Now, before we begin this tutorial, a disclaimer. So the engines that we will be making in this video won't be very accurate. So they're purely there to complete the look of the aircraft in your CAD model. If your project or whatever you're doing revolves around the engines properly, I would not recommend this video. You could use this video as a foundation and then build upon it, but again, mostly of what I'm going to be doing here is an aesthetic point of view rather than a simulation point of view. So on that note, let's get started. So before we even go there, Hamsinic very kindly pointed out that there should be 3 pylons on the wing rather than just 2. So the first thing I'm going to do here is do just that. So if we go to the blueprints, you'll see that there's a pylon that's supposed to be there as well. So what I'm going to do is under my wing section, I'm going to go to FTB, which was my flap track beam. I'm going to copy this. And again, in the wing section, I'm just going to paste new. And what this will let me do is control the position of the new pylon. So it's going to be somewhere over here. So then we can go to the top view. Okay, so I was completely off. It's supposed to be somewhere over here. And then I'm going to put it in the front. And then let's see how it's doing from the right-hand side. So you can't really see what's going on the right-hand side, but if I go on the back, this doesn't look like it's on the right height, so I am going to drag this down just a little bit. And then I'm going to press OK and capture position. So if you click on capture position, what it does is it basically takes this as the new position for this body. So I'm going to click on that. Okay, so after adjusting the height, it seems like that's in a good position as well. And now if we zoom out and go to render, okay, I think that looks really good. So thank you, Hamsinic, for pointing that out, and let's get started on the engines. Okay, so now when we focus on the engines, there are a few assumptions we're going to make here. So firstly, if we look on the front side, in the front side, you can see that in the case of a 737, the engine looks a little bit squashed from the bottom. I believe the reason for this is because there is always a requirement that says the engine has to be a certain distance above the ground at all times. So that's why the 737 has a squashed engine. If I'm wrong, please do correct me in the comments below. But again, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to assume that it's a circular cross-section. If you do want to make this more detailed, what you can do is follow a similar method to what I did for the fuselage. So we go to the T-splines, and then we start with a cylindrical shape, and then we manipulate that cylindrical shape to come up with the shape that we want. However, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to use a slightly simplified approach, but it will still look really good. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is construct a new plane, and that's going to be parallel to the right plane. And I want this plane to be somewhere over here. So this is going to be somewhere at the middle of this engine. So if we assume that this engine has a cross-section of a circle, then this construction plane that we've made needs to be aligned with that. So I'm going to assume that this is the position. So I'm going to press OK. And then we are going to create a new sketch on this new plane that we've created. Okay, so let's zoom in over here, and what I can do now is basically just follow the path of that there. So if you just follow my mouse, that's the path that we're going to be making. And then we're going to use that path, and then we're going to spin it around its axis. So we're going to revolve it around its axis for it to create that sort of symmetry about the circular center. Okay, so I'm going to create a line, and firstly I'm going to try and find the midpoint of the engine. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to create a line, and then I'm going to go to the maximum height. So that's the maximum height of the engine there. and I'm going to draw a vertical line downwards, so somewhere there. Okay, and now if we hover over somewhere around the midpoint of this line, it's going to give us a triangle. And what this triangle means is that this is the midpoint of that line, which in this case would also imply that it's the midpoint of the engine. So if I draw a line there, that should be correct. Now you can see that it's a little bit off, and this is probably because of my inaccuracy there. But if you want to go ahead, you can change the position there. So I'm just going to do that a little bit, and we are good to go. Okay, now I'm going to press the T tool, so that's going to allow me to trim these two lines. Great, so now we have our line of symmetry. Good, so now I'm going to create a line vertically upwards till there, and then I'm going to go to create spline, control point spline, and then I'm just going to follow the path of this engine. And I'm going to stop somewhere there, and I'm going to create a line vertically downwards. Okay, and there we have it. So that's our section there. And if I go ahead and finish sketch and go to revolve and choose that as my profile, and the axis that we can choose to revolve this around can be this one. So the first option you'll get, okay, so at least in my case, is a cut option. And this is because you can see that the engine is sort of overlapping with the wing. Obviously we don't want that, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on new body, and this is going to create a new body for me. Okay, so if we look at this from the side view now, it looks really good. And if we look at it from the front view, it also looks really good. So again, just remembering that this bulge exists because of that constraint, but I'm happy keeping this cylindrical as of now. Okay, so the first problem I can notice here is that this is actually a solid body rather than being hollow. And the problem with that is you won't be able to see the fan blades inside if you model those. So if I go back to my A350, you can see here that you can see the fan blades because the engine is hollow. So let's try and do that over here. So I'm going to go back to the sketch that we made here. So this is going to be the latest sketch. I'm going to right click on that and click on edit sketch. Okay, and over here, what I'm going to do is under the modify option, there is an option called offset. So we've used this before when we were making the doors and the windows. So I'm just going to click on that line there and just drag it inside and choose a number that you like or what looks good to you. So over here, maybe I'm going to go for 65. Okay, and again, if we just revolve this one, the cylinder will be hollow, but you won't be able to see that it's hollow. So what we need to do is actually create an opening from the front side. So I'm just going to grab my line tool and go to that point there and click on that point there. And then I'm going to press the T tool to trim, or that button there. So I'm going to click on this and click on that. Okay, and what this will allow me to do is create that section over there. Okay, well, obviously in order to revolve something, you need to make sure that it's a closed surface. So I'm going to close the surface over here. And then you'll see that this is now a closed surface and it's just a thin wall. So when I revolve this around this axis, it will be hollow. If this doesn't make a lot of sense to you yet, it will in a few seconds. Okay, so I'm just going to finish the sketch here. And you'll see that automatically it created this hollow section for me. If it didn't for you, don't worry. All you need to do is just right click on the revolve that you created earlier, edit feature, and just cancel the profile and the axis and reselect the profile. So the profile is going to be this small section over here, and the axis is going to be this one over there. If I press OK, that should look really, really good. Okay, so now that we've got the main body of the engine sorted, let's start continuing with the back section. So when I say the back section, this is what I mean. So far what we've made is the outer casing, so the thing that you see in white. Now, I believe this is the 737 MAX because it's got these shark tooth looking thingies at the back. But we won't be making those. Ours is an older model and it doesn't include that. So what we've done so far is make the white section. Now we also want to make this dark gray, light gray, and this spiky section. So this dark gray section, if you look closely, it almost seems like its function is to be attached to the section between the engine and the wing. So this, I think, is also called a pylon, but in this case, this pylon is there to attach the engine to the wing. Then we've got this light gray section, which is almost silver, and I think that just is that just belongs to the engine itself. And then we've got this spike at the back. So let's start modeling that one. Okay, so coming back to Fusion, you can even see in the blueprints here that the three sections we just spoke about are present in the blueprints as well. So if I just hide all the components that I don't need, so this is the dark gray section that I was talking about, then this is the light gray, and this was the spike at the back. Okay, so we can basically reuse the construction plane we made earlier. So if we open our construction folder, and then I believe plane 12 was the one that we used to construct this engine on. So I'm going to create sketch on the same plane, and we are good to go then. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is project this body. So I can use the specified entities option, and then I just want to click on that vertical edge over there, just so we have a reference point to work from. Okay, and now we've also got this sort of thing here. So either you could just make that a straight line, but there's a bit of curvature there that I'd like to also include. So I'm just going to use control point spline and create 1 point there, 1 point there, and 1 point there. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing from there to there. So that's just going to be a straight line. And then I'm going to draw a line vertically downwards from there and also from there, because we're going to be modeling these two sections differently. Okay, so what about the axis of symmetry that we created earlier? Well, it still is there, and we don't need to do a lot to actually take that into account. So this purple line that we've just projected, if we hover over the middle section, it'll snap to the middle section and give us this triangle. So if I draw a line from there backwards, you can see that this has now been split into half. I can then press my T tool for the trim, then just trim these guys out. Okay, perfect. Okay, we've got one final thing going on over here at the back, and that can be modeled either as a spline or simple normal line. I'm just going to create a spline because it looks fancier. Okay, and then we no longer need that section there. Good, so now I'm going to finish the sketch. And this is what we have so far. Okay, now similar to what we did for the main body of the engine, we're going to revolve that section, and the axis is going to be that. Okay, and instead of joining this, I'm going to create a new body out of this, and I'm going to press OK. Okay, now obviously Fusion thinks that we're done with the sketch, but we're not, so I'm just going to bring that sketch back where we created our section there. Okay, and then I'm going to click on revolve, and I'm going to choose this as my new section, and the axis I want to choose is this one. And again, instead of pressing join, I'm going to press new body, and I'm going to press OK. And just repeat the process one more time for that little spike thing at the back. So that's my profile, and the axis we want to select is this one. And again, new body, and press OK. Now we can go ahead and hide the sketch. Okay, so now if we have a look at where the engine is in relation to every other component, we've got the fuselage, wing, horizontal and vertical stabilizer back. And you can see it's really starting to come together. Now, before I proceed with anything else, some of you might have already noticed why have I not put this into a component already? So it's always a good practice that before you start modeling something, your component is already ready and everything that you create is already inside that component. You can see that I've not done that here, and I did this on purpose. The reason is because someone came to me recently and said that they weren't able to create a new component and drag those bodies inside. And this has happened to me in the past as well. And if this is something that's been happening to you, you can do what I'm about to do now. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new component. I'm going to call this component engine. And I'm going to now take these and drag them inside. So currently it lets me do that, but there are times where it doesn't, and I'm not sure why. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. But if it won't let you do that, there's something else that you can do. Just take the 4 bodies or how many ever bodies you have, right click on them and click on cut. So what this is going to do, it's going to basically remove them from this folder, and then we're going to right click on our engine folder and click on paste. So you'll see that it sort of disappeared from our 737 folder, but now it's inside our engine folder. Now if you just press OK, your engines are now in your engine component. Okay, so now that's sorted, what I can do is activate my engine component, which it already is. So I'm going to hide my fuselage, wing, horizontal and vertical stabilizer, and once again, purely focus on the engine. So now we're going to move forward with the fan blade that appears on the front of the engine. Now, a disclaimer once again, I'm going to be making a lot of assumptions here. I'm probably not even going to be using an airfoil to model it, but if this is something that you're doing for more detailed purpose, I highly recommend you look at some other tutorials where they go over how to make these things properly. I'm just going to be using some very basic tools here to make it look like a fan blade. And everything inside the engine, so the compressor, the combustor, and also the turbine, I will not be modeling because those aren't really visible. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is once again bring that plane back. Now, if you're tired of bringing that plane back again and again, and you want to only have it inside your engine folder, what you can do now is go to Construct and click on Axis through Cylinder. Now, because this is sort of a cylindrical shape, it's gonna, if I highlight over here, you can see it's created this turquoise line, and what that is the axis of symmetry that we've been using all along. So if I click on OK, it's going to leave that over there. Then I'm going to press Construct and plane through, and so plane and angle over there. Okay, then I'm going to click on this line. And before we press Enter, you'll notice that this is currently a horizontal line. We want it to be vertical. So I'm going to press 90 degrees. And there we have it. We want it to be vertical because we're sketching from the right plane instead of the top plane. Okay, good. So now I can go ahead and hide that axis. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to create a new sketch on top of this new plane that we've just created. Okay, wonderful. So obviously in the blueprints, you can't really tell where the fan blade starts. So if I go back to my A350, this was a guesstimation that I had used to try and figure out where the this conical section starts. So if we go to Google and we go to a 737 engine, and you can see there that actually the blade starts off quite a lot deeper inside the cylinder. So what I'm going to do is do a guesstimation. So come back to 737 here, and I'm going to say somewhere over there. So actually, let me just draw a line from here to here just to have that as a reference. Then I'm going to create a conical section somewhere here. So I'm going to maybe something like that. So that's going to be that spinner thing that you can see in the front. So that section over there. Okay, and then I'm going to also create that cylinder at the back where the blades come out from. So that's going to be from there. And maybe I'm just going to make this a little bit longer all the way to there. Okay, if you think this is a little bit small, obviously you can just adjust this a little bit. So I'm going to probably do that to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, and then I'm going to finish this sketch. So now if I go to my engine bodies, and if I hide my main engine casing, you can see that these are now closed surfaces that I can use to then revolve. So revolve, profile is this one, axis is this one, good to go. Okay, and then we're going to bring back the sketch. I don't know why Fusion's acting up for me today, but here we are. So revolve, there, and the axis is this one. And again, instead of saying join, I'm going to say new body and press OK. So we have the main spinner thing ready to go. Okay, I can hide the sketch now because we don't need it. And if I bring my body back, you can see that that spinner is ready. Okay, obviously, again, if you know the actual dimensions of all these things, please do take that into account. Okay, so now comes the slightly tricky bit. So let's rename all of these bodies first. So this one I'm going to call engine casing. Okay, let's hide that. I'm going to call this one blade cylinder because that's where it originates from. This one I'm just going to call conical section. Okay, and this one are the back bits. So if for now we can just leave them because they're not important to us just yet. So I'm going to hide the engine casing, and I'm also going to hide the conical section. And what we're going to be doing now is essentially we're going to create a sketch on the front of the cylinder, and then we're also going to create a sketch at the back of the cylinder. Okay, so after we've created the two sections, or the two sketches on two halves of this cylinder, we're then going to be lofting them, and you'll see why it looks like a pretty good blade. So let's create a new sketch on the front of the cylinder first. Okay, and then I also want to bring back my engine casing. So this will tell us how long to make each blade. So if I press P, and if I hover over the engine casing, you'll see that it's giving us this these two rings, and that's basically telling us the inner and outer diameters. But I don't think it's doing a very good job there. So what I'm going to do is click on the body's side of the projection, and then if I hover over this, it's going to give me a single ring, and the single ring is the outermost diameter of the engine. So if I just click on that and press OK, and then hide the engine casing again, this is the outermost diameter of our engine at that point inside the engine. So now we can offset this, because if we make the blade all the way up till there, then chances are it's going to start protruding outside the casing. We don't want that. We want everything to be inside the casing. So I'm just going to create a little bit of an offset here. Maybe I'm going to go with -85, and that will be our maximum height of the blade. Okay, so let's create a line from the midpoint and vertically upwards until that offset line that we've just created, so that black one there. Okay, and then I'm also going to create a line again from the center to somewhere over there maybe, and from there to somewhere over there. And don't worry, we're going to be applying some constraints on top of this to make sure everything is equal. So in the constraint section, you'll see this one, and this is called a symmetry. So if I click on this, and then I click on the two blue lines that we've created, and then click on the center, you'll see that it's basically aligned the two blue lines such that they're now symmetrical about the black line that we've created. Now, obviously, a blade is not going to be this thick, so I'm going to basically do something like that. So maybe something like that. And the section that we're going to be using is this section and that section. Not all the way till the origin there, but till somewhere over there. Okay, and maybe I just want to make it even a little bit more thinner. So something like that. Okay, good. Again, if you don't like the look of this later on, you can always come back and edit it. So that's our first side done. I'm going to finish the sketch here, and then I'm going to create a similar sketch on the back plane. So, oops. So I'm going to click on sketch, and we want to sketch on the back side of the cylinder this time. So making sure that is the correct one you're selecting. Okay, so similar to what we did on the front, we're going to go to press P, and this time we already have the reference, and the reference is the black line. So we're going to put that back into our projection, and you'll see that even if I hide my first sketch, the back sketch also has this ring. Okay. Now I will hide again these three, we don't need them. Okay, press line, and now I'm going to create something over there. Okay, and similar to what we did there, I'm just going to make it a little bit thinner like this one. Apply the symmetry constraint, so this one and this one have to be symmetrical about this one. Okay, and it does the job for us. Okay, I'm going to make this slightly thinner, maybe somewhere around roughly the same size as what we had before. Okay, and then you can again see that this becomes one section and this becomes another section, and that's exactly what we need. So I'm going to finish the sketch here. Okay, and now we're going to loft these together. So I'm going to create loft, and the first section we want is this one and this one. And the second section we want is on the back plane. So that one and that one. Okay, and now instead of saying cut, I want to make this a new body. Okay, and now if I press OK, you'll see that this is what it's created, and it sort of looks like a really cool blade already. Now before we continue, there's something else that you can do. So if I right click on my loft that we've created in the timeline and click on edit feature, so instead of saying connected on the second profile, maybe I can say direction, and you'll see what it's done is created this sort of curvature inside the blade. And if we do the same thing for that, it's created this. And I like the look of this, so I can go ahead with this. If it's not something you like, if you only want direction to be on one of the profiles and not on both of them, you can go ahead and do that. If you don't want any direction, you can also do that. The choice is completely yours. I really like the look of this, so I'm going to go ahead and press OK. Okay, and there we have it. So that's our one blade complete. Okay, so let's bring back our engine casing and see whether that looks okay. And it does. So currently, compared to my liking, it's sort of bending too much on the right. So I'm going to try and edit the sketch again. Okay, so in order to edit the feature, what I'm going to do is first go to the front section, make sure that it's in the correct view. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the back section. Okay, so now in the back section, I am going to go to sketch 3, which is where we made the second blade. I'm going to right click on that and click on edit sketch. Okay, and I'm also going to make my sketch 2 visible. Now remember, when we applied this symmetry constraint, so if I drag the extreme ones, you can see that this will make my blades really thick. But I don't want that. What I want to do is move this to the right altogether. So I'm going to grab the middle line, and then I'm going to do this. And you can see, because symmetry has been applied, the two lines on the left and right would automatically move themselves. So if I want to maybe have it over here, and let's finish sketch and see how my body looks now. So let me bring back the engines, and I want to revolve around this body. And I think that looks much better than before. Yep, so I like the look of that. Maybe a little bit more to the right from the back view. Again, I'm just fine-tuning this. You really don't need to do this if you don't want to. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the back to the front view and see if it made any changes, and it did. Okay, and maybe one more thing I can do is actually edit the loft itself. So instead of having two directions, one going from there and one from there, I'm going to keep this two connected, and you can see what it does is it only has curvature from one direction rather than both. Okay, so I'm going to press OK here, bring back the engine casing, and revolve around here. Okay, so visually it's not made that much of a difference, but it looks really cool to me. Okay, so I'm going to call this one blade, and then what we can do from now on is actually make a pattern that will, so if we go to pattern, circular pattern, and the body we want to select is that blade, and the axis we want to select is any of these circles will do, because they all have revolved around the same axis of symmetry. So if I just click on that, you'll see that that's what it's done. And maybe I want to go for 22 blades. So if I click on OK, you'll see that that's what it looks like. And if we bring back all our other components and activate them, you'll see that this is starting to look really, really cool. Again, if there's anything in particular you didn't like, you can always go back and edit the sketch or edit the feature, and it will update it for you. So let me bring back everything now, and that looks really cool. So that's pretty much it for the main body of the engine. Okay, so the second last thing we want to focus on now is actually creating the pylons. So the pylons are the things that attach the engines to the wing. So if we go to the right profile there, so it's this sort of section in the middle over here. So the way we're going to be making this is, again, similar to how we made the wings and the empennage section. We're going to first create an airfoil section at the middle of this engine section. And then we're going to create a path and a guide rail for it to then go towards the wing. Okay, so again, I'm going to activate my engine component. I'm going to go to construct, axis through cylinder. Again, any of one of these will do, so I'm just going to click on that one. And construct plane at angle, and I'm going to click on that line there. Okay, and this time we're actually going to leave it at 0 degrees because we want to sketch from the top section. So I'm going to go and press OK. Okay, so create a new sketch on this plane. I'm going to the right section there. And now, firstly, I want to draw our reference line, and then I'm going to create a spline something that looks like an airfoil. It doesn't have to be exact just yet, but we can obviously go ahead and change this later on if we really have to. Okay, so I'm going to create an airfoil maybe somewhere there, and I'm going to make it symmetrical, so something like this. Okay, and then we don't need that side of the section, so that's our airfoil complete. So if I go to engine and hide the engine casing, that's your airfoil ready there. Okay, so I'm going to finish the sketch. I'm going to click on construct, plane at angle, and then we're going to use the chord line as a reference. This time, for the guide rail and the path, we want to sketch on the vertical section like how we did for the wing and the empennage. So obviously we're going to make this 90 degrees so that we can sketch on top of this plane. Okay, press OK. Create sketch on this new one. And as always, we are going to project the front and the back section of the airfoil. Or alternatively, you could project the chord line. It's equivalent in this case. Okay, great. Now we're going to follow this path. So if you follow my mouse, this is the path that we're going to be creating. So something like that for the front, and for the back, we're going to go somewhere like this. Okay, so if this doesn't make a lot of sense yet, it will in a moment. So let's go to spline, control point spline, and obviously start from that purple section there. Okay, and then I'm going to just follow that curve somewhere there. Okay, and I'm also going to do the same thing for the back section. So somewhere maybe there. Okay, and I'm going to finish the sketch here. Okay, now let's go to create, sweep. Okay, so type is path plus guide rail. Profile is going to be this one and this one. The path is this one, and the guide rail is this one. So that looks really good. Now, obviously, we don't want to cut any of the things inside the engine, so we're just going to create a new body for now. And let's press OK. Let's bring back the wings and make sure it looks good as well. And it does. So if I activate everything there, this is what it currently looks like. So if I also bring back the engine casing, this is what it looks like. Obviously, from the outside, it looks pretty good. But if you zoom in here, this also looks really weird because the pylon is intersecting with the stuff inside the engine, which is clearly wrong. But don't worry about it, we can change that. Another point to be noted is that if your pylon is extruding outside the engine, what you can do is just split it off using the wing as a cutting body. And I will show you how to do that because we're going to do something similar for the engine section. Okay, so in order to remove this section from the engine, what we're going to do is basically use the combine tool, except instead of combining it, we're going to cut it. So let's go to the combine tool first, and it's going to ask for a couple of things. So first thing is target body. So the target body, so the body we want to split, is our pylon, and the tool body is going to be our engine casing. And you can already see, so instead of saying operation join, it should be cut. And you can already see a glimpse of what it's going to do. It's going to split our pylon into that blue body and the blue body inside the engine, and obviously use the engine itself as the cutting body. You also want to make sure that keep tools is selected, because if it's not, then it's going to take away the engine body. So just make sure that these three options are selected properly. So operation is cut and keep tools is ticked. So if I press OK, and now if I hide my engine casing, you can see that our body has been split into two. So that's your first pylon over there, and that's your other pylon. So the other pylon, obviously we don't need, so I'm going to right click on this and remove it. And body 29 in my case is going to be the pylon itself. So if I press OK there, and then if I also go back, bring back the engine casing, you can see that this now looks really, really good. We've got our axis still visible, so I'm just going to hide that. And that's it. So let's bring back everything now. So there we go. So there we have it. So that's our engine complete with the pylon. Now this video has gone really long already. So what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to add some appearances onto the engine so that when you render it, it looks really nice. And also we are going to be focusing on this bulkhead section. So this is the bulkhead section is basically what connects the wing to the fuselage section. And if we have a bit of more time remaining, and if there's something else that you'd like me to cover while we're still doing this aircraft series, please do let me know in the comments below. And as always, I will leave the files for this on my website where you can go and check those out. I'm also starting my own CAD consultation, which I will have more details about later on. But if there's something that you'd like help with, that you're doing professionally and you'd like me to help you out or make something for you, I'm happy to do that. So it's going to be a more professional practice compared to these tutorials. Okay, so thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. If there's something you like or something you didn't like, please drop it down in the comments below so that I can improve my videos as well. All right, guys, you take care.